Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Chamunati Ravanatari Jamunati Ravanatari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Chamunati Ravanatari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Boom. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bo. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pari Bhajakacharya Sitachish Minis Divine Grace of Aicharan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT founder Charga Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kodaveshta Brinda Ki. Namchar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Brinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navir Dham Ki. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Dev Ki. Sambheda Bhakta Vinda Ki. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the divine Litasita, Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunyavari Paskachadya Satarani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So as we mentioned earlier, because after all, Prabhupada said, just like he said, ISKCON cannot be destroyed from outside, only from inside. And there's the old saying, we found the enemy, and the enemy is us. What is the nuclear bomb that can actually devastate our devotional life? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives it a name. He compares it to if you have a nice garden, because after all, we get the Bhakti Lata, the bij, the seed of pure devotion. It's planted in our heart. It's watered by hearing and chanting, so many different things. So it's coming along very nicely. No problem. And after all, it's like a vine. It climbs up and ultimately attaches to the lotus feet of Krishna, and it bears the fruit of pure Krishna prema. Sounds good to me. Just follow the steps. Just add water. Well, if you have a gardener, I'm a gardener, Mani's a gardener, Nelson's a gardener. If you have a garden, what will guarantee devastation of that garden? Now that's a pretty big hint, you guys. Anyone know? Bhakta Joseph. Offenses to devotees, which is compared to what elephant? Ah, jeez. My neighbors were a little wild last night. So, yes, it's called what is it? Hati. What is the first word? Hati. It is the mad elephant offense. If you have a nice little garden and you get an elephant loose in it, it's finished. It's like the old joke, where does the 2-ton gorilla sit? Anyone know the answer? Anywhere it wants. You got a mad elephant. But it's serious. It's actually it is what, and we've seen it. What is, a little recap on the previous classes, what is the, other than the usual crew who know all the answers, anyone, newcomers, who knows what is the archetype example of the results of offenses to devotees? Now, I was thinking of something. You could say Davarsa Muni and Marjambarish. Okay, that would work. That's good. But does anyone know? I'll give you a slow underhand pitch, from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anyone know other than Ramapati? Yeah. I hadn't thought of Jagai. Jagai and Madai will do. Jagai and Madai will do. But I'm thinking of someone else which Prabhupada extensively discusses in the purport. All right, Dravida Prabhu. It could be Ramchandra Puri, who systematically offended all the devotees in Jagannath Puri. And what was the result? Yes, Ram. Chapel Gopal, we could also meet. Gopal Chapel, we could meet, whose nose fell off for Haridas Thakur. But staying with it, because what happened to the heart of Ramchandra Puri? Because why do we care about offenses to the devotee? Whatever, it'll all work out. I'll just chant Hare Krishna, it'll all be erased. And, we'll be back. It's the, what do you call it, the miracle cure-all, just chant Hare Krishna. But the offenses to devotees can actually have, not a permanent effect, but can have a very serious setback in our devotional life. And the example of Ramchandra Puri is given because why? He offended the devotees at Jagannath Puri. Okay, fine, I'm with you. But what happened to the heart of Ramchandra Puri? I thought, Mani, you were raising your hand, no? His heart, he actually came to the point that his own spiritual master, Madhavinda Puri, in spiritual ecstasy of separation on his disappearance bed, was crying. And Ramchandra Puri attempted to instruct him, why are you crying? Fix your mind on Brahman. At which point, Madhavinda Puri said, get this fool out. If I die seeing his face, I will not achieve my desired success. So the mood, devotional service, Prabhupada told Giriraj Maharaj, that which is material can become spiritual. And a classic example is prasadam. You buy it at Trader Joe's or wherever you get it, and you cook it, okay, it's all. But when it comes in touch with Krishna, Prabhupada said if you eat off I better get back to what I want to talk about that. If you eat off a diseased person's plate, I personally heard Prabhupada say this, if you eat off a diseased person's plate, what will happen? What will happen? You'll get their disease, right? And every disease has symptoms, right? Nausea, headache, fevers, whatever it is, right? Eat off a diseased person's plate, you'll get the disease, and every disease has symptoms. So what is prasadam? We're taking off Krishna's plate, right? Prabhupada said, you eat off Krishna's plate, you get Krishna's disease. Now, every disease has symptoms. Anyone know what the symptoms, Prabhupada said, of Krishna's disease when you take prasadam? Prabhupada said, Sat Chit Ananda. And then he said, and there's no cure. So that disease we want to get. So, although apparently, the Catholics have a name for it, a communion, it's called transmogrification. Yeah, look it up, Google it. Because you got a cracker and a wafer and they say it's transformed to the blood and body of Christ. So it's not a unique concept that which is material can become spiritual. Now, what's the other side of the coin? What's the inverse? If something material can become spiritual, what's the other side of the coin? Something spiritual can become material. Actually, only temporary, can never be lost. But we have to be careful. You wonder why some people are advancing nicely in devotional service and somebody else is just... And one of the main reasons is offenses to devotees. So that's what we've been discussing. Now, how do we respond? Because it's a reciprocal, as Prabhupada would say, reciprocal. It's a reciprocal thing. We sometimes get offended. I mean, people in Kali Yuga are so sensitive. They're like a hair trigger. Because everybody's oppressed and cheated and agitated. And as the famous country western song that my neighbors were playing at 12 o'clock midnight last night, looking for love in all the wrong places. So people are frustrated, they're angry, they're agitated. They are a time bomb ticking. We've talked about, road rage, so many different examples, passion crimes, so many things. So we are, and amongst devotees, you know, it's not, we're all, I mean, you're all great souls who took birth to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but I know who I am. I'm a dog that some Vaishnava threw a chapati, and they, wow, that worked out. So we all are, you know, it's a process and it takes time. So we have to guard a very valuable thing, you guard carefully. So we have to be aware that as we've received devotional service, we have to be careful to protect it. So, okay, sometimes we'll be offended. That's what we want to talk about today. I'll give you an example. I had a very good lesson when I was young. Let that be a lesson. I was once young. And you wonder why. We used to have for breakfast baked potatoes, khichdi, peanuts and raisins, much kheer as you could possibly swallow, a couple pieces of burfi. You know, we were well stocked, you know. And you could count. Breakfast was at 9. By 10 o'clock, you'd hear devotees fighting with each other, you know. It would happen. And I was the Sankirtan leader. I had some disagreement with the temple commander, some petty thing. But I got very upset. And he got upset. And as they say, words were exchanged. So, and I was convinced I was right. I was right, he was wrong. So there was a visiting sannyasi, Satsrupa Swami, happened to be visiting. He was our GBC. So somehow or other I had the wherewithal to ask, and I went to him thinking that he would confirm my validity of my position and chastise the other devotee. And I was very happy I was going to get my revenge. I was going to be able to dance on his ashes. So I went to Satsrupa Swami and I said, you know, this happened and that happened, and I was waiting for the justification. And he said, you should go apologize to him. I said, what? I said, he was wrong. I'm right. Why do I have to apologize? He should apologize to me. He should grovel at my lotus feet. What's going on here? He said, no. I said, I'm not sorry. I wasn't wrong. He was wrong. You think I'm stubborn now? You should have seen me in those days. So anyway, he said, well, you can be sorry you lost your temper. You can be sorry you spoke harshly to him. It's not only the justification of the immediate event, but there's the, like, whatever. It's the residual. It's the ramifications. So I thought, okay, that makes sense. I can do that. I can honestly apologize for losing my temper and speaking harshly. And I went and I found him and I said, please forgive me. Please accept my obeisances. I bowed down and he turned around and walked away. I thought, well, there it is. It's confirmed that he's whatever I thought he was and I'm righteous. And I went back and I said to Satsrupa Swami, I said, what was the use? You know? Because we want victory. We want vindication. Revenge. And he said, you know, he said, you can, no. He said, you're victorious, because we want to be victorious. He said, you're victorious. You did the right thing. Krishna's pleased. Samsiddhi haritoshanam. Did it matter that my delicate false ego was assuaged? That my temporary fleeting sense of justice? I mean, if there actually is a genuine wrong and justice, you know, that's another issue. But the point is that by doing the right thing as a Vaishnava, by taking the humble position, Trinadapi Sunichena, ready to offer all respects to others, not expecting respect for oneself, Krishna was pleased. I was victorious in that I controlled my mind and senses and acted like a Vaishnava. So we're going to elaborate on that a little bit, the idea of how to, when we're offended, how to process it. Is it just immediate stimulus response? You know, action, reaction, tit for tat? We were talking the other day about the time delay between the false ego and the mind and the senses. What do they call it? What is it, time delay? You know, but on a radio show or a television show, there's that delay, 1 minute delay in case the guy says something completely offensive. Yeah, but what is the name of that? Is it called time delay? There's a moment. They can delete it if the guy. So instead of just immediately, from contemplation, the senses, attachment develops and all of that, and we, fall into the material whirlpool, to see the cycle. Hey, wait a minute, I've been on this bus before. No, our train, let me say, I don't want to offend them. I've been on this before. I know where this ends, and I do not like that place. So that ability to, whoa. So we're going to take some examples from the Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj. How was Parikshit Maharaj offended? I mean, what's the seed, the catalyst for the Bhagavatam? Other than Javed, we know you know. We want to give the rest of the folks a chance. Anyone know how was Parikshit Maharaj offended? Who? Yes, Paru. Yeah, he was cursed within 7 days by a snake bird. Snake bird is a cobra that lives how long and then gets wings? Yeah, it's something. You ever see a picture of a king? Google it when you go home. Look at a king cobra. I mean, it's a frightful animal. So, cursed to die within 7 days. And Prabhupada points out that he could have countered it. So he was offended. He could have gotten his revenge. He was the king. This is a foolish boy. He was right. How did Maharaj Parikshit take that curse? Anyone know what his mindset was? It's described in the Bhagavatam. Yes?
He just decided it was Krishna's plan and then sat down.
Excellent. He thought, well, I'm this king. I've got a young body and a beautiful wife and power and prestige. I'm completely entangled. This is Krishna's mercy on me to help me get out, to break my attachments. This is Krishna's arrangement. So, they have this saying that you cannot change circumstances. This is not, obviously Prabhupada liked the saying, God helps those who help themselves. We have intelligence, we have initiative, we have free will. Fine. We do the best we can. But in the ultimate issue, there's things that we cannot change. Do we rage like Lear on the moor against the hand of God? If you can't change it, what do we do? If we do not have control over circumstances, anyone who's lived long enough will agree that we do not have control over circumstances. So if we can't change, if we don't have control over circumstances, what do we actually have agency or control over? Who said that? How we react, how we respond, that we have full control over. So Maharaj Parikshit was offended. He was riding on top of the world, and all of a sudden, wham! And he could counter it. But how do we see? This is why Bhagavad Gita is the resting point of the Vedic literature. Because the rest of it, you can't make sense of it. Just like how in the world do you make sense of if there's an all-powerful and all-merciful God, how can there be a child born blind? Silver spoons to some, golden spoons to other, as they say in the old biblical chant. How is it possible? If God is all-merciful, He could fix it. He should want to fix it. He should be compassionate. And if He's all-powerful, He could fix it. So He should have the inclination, because He's all-merciful, and He should have the ability, because He's all-powerful. And yet we see all kinds of horrible things happening. So there's no God. Proves that there's no God. What is the only thing that makes sense of that apparent capriciousness of God? What's the only thing that makes sense? Karma and reincarnation. As soon as you understand that, they're picking up where they left in their last life. There's a purpose, there's a rhyme or reason, there's a lesson to be learned. As soon as you see it in a philosophical context, then the whole thing makes sense. So the point is, how did Maharaj Parikshit respond? How do we take it? Because we're going to get offended. It happened. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, like rivers enter into the ocean, and the ocean remains undisturbed. You want to have some fun? Do a Google on the Amazon River when it enters into the Atlantic Ocean. Do a Google on the Mississippi River. What are the Congo, Ganga? I mean, there's so many. I think there's 7 major rivers. In or out, my friend? In or out? The Nile is another good one. There's so many. Volga. And they are pouring millions, and aggregate total, billions of gallons of water into the ocean every second. And the ocean, where you're walking down here on the beach, if you turn the water in a bathtub, it overflows. Think of all that. It's mystical when you think about it. All that water entering into the ocean. And you can walk here along an ocean beach, and what do they call it? The tide water? The tide will only come so far on a general rule. There's grand tides. Okay, fine. But generally speaking, it stays within a certain parameter. So the example Krishna uses is this material world is agitating. There's all kinds of things that disturb us. But if the ocean is deep, it doesn't get disturbed. Maybe on the top of the waves it's disturbed, but down deep it's completely peaceful. So one who's deep in spiritual consciousness, they're undisturbed. So the point I'm trying to make is that if we see things properly, why did this happen? I can go for revenge. I can be angry. I can be, why is, If you can fix it, fix it. That's another thing. But if you can't, then how to take it? Think like Maharaj Parikshit. Well, okay. This is Krishna's mercy on me. How is it Krishna's mercy? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And then we're not trying to slap a happy face on everything. We're not saying that. But as a general rule, if that's an attitude, okay, this has happened to me. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Michelangelo, when he would carve, what is it? The La Pieta, the Mother Mary holding the dead body of Christ, or is it David? It's considered the perfect statue, if you carve, like you see them carving Lord Nrsingadev, our guy who did it in South India, in the granite, you carve on the stone. You get a big square block and you carve on it. Michelangelo didn't draw. At least when it came to David, he didn't draw. He did sketches on the side, but he sat and he was looking at it and looking at it. His friend said, when's he going to sketch? So his friend finally asked him, how come, so the story goes, when are you going to sketch? He said, no, I don't need a sketch. He said, I can see it. It's in there. I just have to figure out what to remove. You follow? If you can see it, then you just chip off what's extra, and there it is. So we are all pure spirit soul. We are Satchidananda Vigraha. That's the default nature of our self. Each of us has our own personal ras with Krishna. It's there. I don't want to go too far afield, but it's there within our heart. And the process for a devotee of living in life is Krishna's chipping all that off. He's carving away a little false ego here, a little pride here, a little arrogance, and sometimes also some encouragement. We may be shy. Krishna gives us a little success, He works in so many, but it's actually, what is it? Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivisto mata smriti jnanam apavanam cha. He's in everyone's heart, and from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. That's Prabhupada calls it the routing out factor. If you have a pipe that's full of, roots, and they said in rotary drills it all out. So Krishna's in the heart, and if we cooperate, it cleans all that out of our heart. So we have the example of Maharaj Parikshit. Let's take another one. Okay. And I wanted to say, and how did it end? When Maharaj Parikshit, instead of raging against the wind, fighting against, there was a television show that somebody was cursed to die. I forget what it was, but it was all that. If you only knew you had, one day, what would you do? Well, where's my bucket list? I never went hang gliding. I don't know. There's so many silly things. But when Maharaj Pariksit, my point being is when he surrendered to that, let me learn, let me grow, instead of just raging against the thing, let me work. I think karate and jujitsu, I think it's jujitsu. The basic principle is if somebody swings at you, the traditional reaction is to go against, to counter. There's punch and counter punch. But in jujitsu, somebody, I may have it wrong, it may be karate, but obviously I'm not a practitioner. But when suppose somebody swings at you, you don't counter that force. You take that force and pull it towards you. You'll grab their hand and fall back, and it throws them off their balance. You don't fight the force, you work with the force. You follow the example? So in a similar fashion, this is happening. I can fight against it, or I can take it as the will of Krishna for a purpose. Because behind everything, Prabhupada says it so nicely. He calls it the benefit, the therapeutic, beneficial hand of the all-merciful Lord. He's talking about devotee suffering. It's a fantastic sentence. Think about it. The therapeutic means it's curing a disease. Beneficial, it's for our benefit, hand of the all-merciful Lord. Behind it is the all-merciful Lord. So, what happened to Maharaj Pariksit? Did he die alone? Was he lying in his palace waiting for the snake bird to come flying through the window? Did Krishna help him? When he became compliant with the process, did Krishna help him? Okay, how? Send a doctor with an antidote for snake bird bite? Yes. Oh, you already got one. Anyone else want to guess? We have any newcomers? You're not a newcomer. And you got any newcomer? If you get the wrong answer, what's the problem? What happened to Maharaj Pariksit? He was cursed to die. What did he do? First canto Bhagavatam. Yes, my friend. He went and he sat on the banks of the Jamuna or the Ganga. I forget which one at the moment. Okay? But was he alone? What happened? Exactly. Krishna sent Sukadeva Goswami. Krishna helped him. When he made the right step, Krishna helped. Krishna jumped in because Krishna had a plan. And he sent Sukadeva Goswami. Within 7 days, he became completely self-realized, and he went back home, back to Godhead. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Okay, so let's take somebody else. Well, I was thinking of Maharaj Chittiketu. Maharaj Chittiketu, he was flying in his flower airplane, and he saw Parvati sitting on Lord Shiva's lap. And, amongst devotees, we joke. Prabhupada liked a good joke, so he cut some joke, and Parvati didn't like it, and he was cursed. He became Vritasura. But how did he process it? Again, it's the same thing. Rabindra Sarup told me that he was from India, and he was a professor in the religions department at Temple University. So you'd think he'd probably be a pretty good candidate to meet with Prabhupada, right? You would think. So Rabindra invited him. And it's a long story, but the short version is, and there's many nice Christians we can learn from Christians. Sermon on the Mount is fantastic. So don't get me wrong. But this man went off on Krishna in front of Prabhupada. He said, I can see that you're a Vaishnava. He said, but, how did he say it? He said, but your Christian, I am a Christian, and your Christian is lusty. He cheats with other men's wives. Prabhupada immediately came to Krishna's defense, and Prabhupada said, I see that you have a ring. I see that you're married. The man said, yes, I'm married. Prabhupada said, what are you doing with one of Krishna's gopis? He said, the fact of the matter is that everyone is Prakriti, and Krishna is the only Purusha, and everyone, male or female, is a servant of Krishna. Krishna's expanded in everyone's heart. He can't marry 18,000, what is it, 16,108? I mean, how much? What's the population? 7 billion? And that's just the human population? And Krishna's in everyone's heart? So he can't expand and marry some poor princesses who are not going to be able to get a husband out of compassion? He can't do that? Well, why? Show me the seamless logic. So the man was completely, Prabhupada said, actually, you, sir, are the one who is a cheater. And the man went ballistic. He actually began 4-letter words swearing at Srila Prabhupada. Brahmananda, big Brahmananda, one of the heroes of our movement. Brahmananda said, I think you better leave now, sir. Grabbed the guy by his pants and his collar and really gave him the heave-ho. Picked him up, tossed the professor right out the door. I mean, I don't advocate that, but those were younger and more passionate days. But the point is, here's the point I wanted to get to. The devotees were shocked. Rabindra Sarup, you can imagine, was so embarrassed. He said, Prabhupada, I had no idea. I'm so sorry, You know how Prabhupada took it? Prabhupada said, well, I must have offended him in a previous life. And he's come in this life to take his revenge. That's how Prabhupada saw it. So, I must have done something to this person in a previous life, or they're the agent of Krishna delivering something for you. Fine. What can I learn from it? And let me move on. So that's how Maharaj Chittiketu took it, and that's how Vaishnavas take it. We'll do a few more, and then we'll... Prahlad Maharaj, do you think he was offended? What do you think? I mean, was there the physical act of offense? What do you think? Definitely. I mean, you think about it. I mean, his own father tried to poison him, put in a pit of snakes, threw him off a cliff, had a mad elephant try to trample him. Have I missed anything wrong? That's good enough, huh? Boiling oil. Jeez. That's certainly quality. Oh, he had the demons try to chop him up? I mean, talk about piling on. I mean, and after it was all over, and there was the brief surgical operation, which the patient did not survive, Hiranyakasipu, what did Prahlad ask for? He says, deliver my father. If you want to give me something, then bring my father back to life. So, and we find it, Jesus Christ on the cross. What does he say? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. So Prakriti, Kriyamanana, people are controlled by the modes of passion and this and that. We're just an object that happened to get in their way. They're not really ticked off at us. I mean, sometimes they're ticked off at us. But half the time they're ready to blow anyway, and you just happen to be the one who got in the way. So, forgiveness. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. So after this, Prabhupada said, I must have offended him in his previous life, and now he's come to take his revenge. The devotees said, what will happen to him? So they had a little Vaishnav huddle, and they were thinking, well, he'll have to drink boiling ghee and die, or he'll have to wander in the Himalayas, like Ashwatthama with no shelter for the rest of his lifetime in life. What will happen? Imagine. Swore 4-letter words in rage at a pure devotee. What will happen to him? What's the remedy? Everyone's offering their, draconian torture is about to be vested on this man. And everybody offered their opinion, each one more drastic than the other. And they got to Prabhupada. You know what Prabhupada said? Prabhupada said, well, we could forgive him. Nobody thought of that. Nobody had come up with that one, Prabhupada said, we could forgive him. So you see that. Someone offends us, I must have offended them in a previous life. What can I learn from this? And, they're having a bad day or bad life, whatever it may be. Fine. It's not my problem. It's their problem. Let me just, So there it is. And, well, because I'm thinking of the time, and I do want to show this little I do want to say this one. Now, Jad Bharat, he was also offended. I mean, he was offended by his brothers who treated him, as a man animal. But Jad Bharat, anyone know the story of Jad Bharat? Dravida. What, are you going to look it up?
No, I'm just going to...
Oh, you got a mic, okay.
Jad Bharat was formerly Bharat, who was a...
I don't want the whole story. I want to know how he was offended.
Yes, he was feted by Maharaj Mahugana. He was dragooned into carrying the palanquin, and
I'll take it from there. I'll take it from there. So he was forced, because I know where I want to go. He was forced to carry this palanquin, And the other palanquin, were using bad, because he was avoiding the ants, and the thing was rocking, and you got one guy out of step here, the whole thing, Finally, the king blew his stack. But how did Jad Bharat, through all of those offenses, how did he take it? How did he process it? Did he get agitated? He thought, who cares what they think? We've given the example that there's our dog down here, Roscoe. Is Roscoe still with us, or is Roscoe gone to... He's definitely got a human body. He's got so much prasadam in him. So this dog he was a guard dog. He'd go after it. Whenever the devotees walked by, scared the daylights out of you, So when Roscoe barks at me, of course, the devotees, Dharma Setu turned him. Dharma Setu made him into a devotee. Dharma Setu, anyone who lives here loves Dharma Setu. Dharma Setu started giving him burfi. When he'd come home, he used to park his car. And Roscoe became so peaceful. He would just put his paws up and just wait for his burfi. The owner of Roscoe came down and, because I was the president, came down and chastised me. He said, "You've ruined my dog. He's no good as a guard. He never barks. You made him a nonviolent, passive dog. You got to stop feeding him. What's in that food anyway?" They were putting Prozac in the burfi for Roscoe. So, now what was I going to... Oh, so when Roscoe goes off on me, do I go into a funk? What's wrong with my personality? Roscoe doesn't like me. I should go to the costume store and get a dog costume. And if I go on all fours, I learn to bark like a dog, then Roscoe will love me. Is that the right solution? Do I go into therapy because Roscoe's barking at me? And what's wrong? He doesn't like the way I dress. Doesn't like my personality, I've rubbed a few people the wrong way. So I ticked off Roscoe. Am I in therapy? What do you, Mataji, if Roscoe goes off on you, what do you think? Yeah, you think he's a dog. What can you do? He's a dog. I mean, everybody's a dog and, we're the great vice. No, we're not talking about that. But we're talking about, who cares? Who cares what Roscoe thinks? Prabhupada said, only a devotee knows who is who and what is what. We know what's going on. So we think, well, it's a distraction. I know this, Jad Bharat was fixed on his goal. I want to go back home, back to Godhead. I want to become Krishna conscious. I'm spirit. I'm not going to get entangled in this whole circus. Because it's just a circus. It's just an entangling. Of course, I've never been in quicksand. I saw a few Tarzan movies. Isn't it if you struggle in quicksand, you sink faster? Isn't that the principle? I hope no one speaks from personal experience, but our elephant, Gulab Kali, got stuck in the mud at the Ganga one time, So, the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. So I'm not going to get stuck. No. This person's angry at me. They had a bad day. They went off on me. I'm not going to get No. I'm going to become Krishna conscious. I'm a devotee. I've got a devotee's time. One of the symptoms of a devotee is they do not waste time. Prabhupada says you can't buy back a moment, a second. With all the gold in the world, you can't get 1 second back. And I'm a devotee. I'm not going to waste my time getting into some big, what do you call it, tempest in a teacup? Forget it. Doesn't matter. So those are a few examples from the Bhagavatam. Trivita, what should I do? This Rath Yatra slideshow is about 15 minutes. 20 minutes. I'm thinking, should I show it tomorrow? I should show it now? All right, blame it on him. So